So, the first assumption from the social team, assuming that the assumption was that they had going in is that the human-centered implementation of reuse and redistribution of safe drinking water and sanitation will substantially assist the 2030 agenda. So do you agree or do you disagree? Wow. What I can see, it's unanimous, I would say. Thank you. The next assumption was, would increased resilient infrastructure, both in terms of technical hardware and human capacity, be a key agent? Yes or no? Again, thank you very much. And then the final one was that there is a need for more opportunities of both social and economic development in order to ensure the agenda. Thank you. Oh, we have actually a couple of no's in that case. Thank you. Thank you very much. So please, Gunilla and Jasmine.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's been such an honor to be here this week in a host of capacities. I'm a toilet product designer from the Georgia Institute of Technology. I am a current MSc Public Health candidate at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I'm the founder and president of a social startup for sanitation called Wish for Wash, and I've had the distinct pleasure of being on the social rapporteur team for this week. So I guess reflecting on our hypothesis that you all just voted on, the genesis of kind of how we came to these ideas was human-centered implementation being really rooted in cultural context and understanding the people. And then I guess in terms of resilient infrastructure, really focusing on both the hardware and the software in terms of technology, as well as investing in people and human capacity and health. So those were kind of the ways that we came about this hypothesis. And I guess as a team, we had the great opportunity of attending a host of sessions related to social justice, health equity, and human rights. And I guess coming out of this week, we can say the following. That over 4 billion people don't have access to safely managed sanitation, that over 2 billion people don't have access to safely managed water, and that centuries of history are really rooted in conflict related to water and the protection of water sources. And these statistics and kind of histories are disproportionately affecting marginalized communities, whether that's gender, whether that's children, whether that's socioeconomic or cultural minority groups. So these are some things that we as a sector recognize, and it's great to kind of hear that reoccurring theme throughout the different sessions. We've also recognized that there is a disproportionate representation in terms of the workforce, in terms of representation within the sector, as well as just data in general. And so that's really something that was also great to hear. And I think kind of in light of the enormity of the problems that still are amongst us, it's really kind of an exciting opportunity and time to be in this sector and to be a part of this work. Because there's been really overarching positive messaging around, how we can best amplify the voices of these marginalized groups, how we can have social inclusion agendas in our programming and in our planning for moving forward, as well as how we can work with coordinated efforts so that we can effectively create sustainable change. So it's been really exciting to be a part of this week, and I would like to pass it on to our lead rapporteur, who will talk about some of the current challenges, some of the key learnings from this week, as well as some recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now you've heard one of our junior rapporteurs, and I can assure you that the rest of the group were as enthusiastic as Jasmine, and they have done a very, very good job. So it's been a bit difficult to pick up some of the real issues from what they have produced, because they did go to a lot of sessions and they made reports from all the sessions, both written reports and oral reports when we had our meetings. So as Katarina was saying, we started by doing early morning meetings, but then we realized that it's fresher in the minds if we do it in the afternoon after the session. So the young rapporteurs yesterday used the opportunity of relaxing somewhat in the mingle and dance. But I can assure you that they have been
And that was a
very
good party
active
too,
otherwise.
so that's great. And it was a good party for everyone too, so
Yeah,
it's excellent.
it was a good party for everyone, obviously. Okay, what I'm going to report on is what they have found when it comes to the current challenges. And part of that, Torkil already has mentioned, because one of the issues that they have reported quite a lot from is, of course, the issue of gender aspects. There has been a lot of sessions with the gender aspect as one of the important part. And the young rapporteurs have been mentioning that the women-intensive water governance is something that's needed, that is a challenge. What is the women's role is something that has to be decided upon. And there was also one session saying, is wastewater a she? And then we got the quotation to that, saying that wastewater is a he from labor perspective, but a she from victim perspective. I've seen before, we didn't discuss it during this, but that carrying water in many countries is a women's task if they have to go, if they had to walk. But if they have a bike or any kind of car, then it's a man's task.
Interesting.
Well, there was a lot more on the gender aspect, but I'm not supposed to talk too much. I have a tendency of doing that sometimes. Well, not just women. There are other groups that has been dealt with during the sessions. Of course, the youth has been mentioned, but also the indigenous people and the sacred, I pronounced that a bit different when we discussed it in the group. Yes. But the religious part of the society also have special religious leaders that has been discussed during some of the sessions, and that is important as well. Then we come to another aspect that is a challenging aspect where I wouldn't need to dwell too much because Torkil has been talking about that as well. The health aspects. And there was a session on discussion on freshwater health index. And there was also a session on a health emergency perspective index, which is something that came out of the Ebola occasions. The indexes, of course, has linkages to the SDGs. And there has been a lot of mentioning of the different SDGs during these sessions. And that's, of course, mentioned. We also had coverage of sessions on water insecurity and conflict. And some years back, water insecurity and conflict should have been much more narrow than it has been during this session. Because at that time, the water insecurity and conflict was very much regarded as being conflict and insecurity in between countries and in between states. But during the sessions, it's been a lot on the water insecurity within countries. The water insecurity for women, the water insecurity for other groups. And the conflict could rise also from that kind of water insecurity. And I think that's a bit new, and that, well, not quite new, but at least it's not something that has been discussed at World Water Weeks many years. And this is something that is important. And I will come back to that. Of course, there were sessions that dealt with capacity building, education, and awareness building. That's kind of traditional, because that is an issue that needs to be dealt with. But it has partly been dealt with a bit different this year. On the most important findings, I think that one of the most important findings that I also have seen in the reports from the young professionals is this more wide perspective. And it has been more of an integrated perspective, but it's also been a wider perspective. And the example I gave from the water and conflict is one of the examples of that.
Now, concluding remarks from your group?
Yeah. The concluding remark is the recommendation on the way forward. That's rather easy, and I can say it very, very shortly. Please continue to broaden the sessions this way. Excellent. And please continue to include the integrated perspective as has been done.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Torkild, do you have any immediate reactions, thoughts, responses?
No, I can only say that great minds think alike. I mean, the discussions in the seminars and the discussion you saw are converging. Mm-hmm. I think maybe one of the things that I think has come here is that with the SDGs, the 17, the 169 targets and the 250 specific indicators, and countries signing up to that, we can no longer just, as we said, state the big numbers and make the symbolic statement. We are forced now to be much more specific and concrete and turn this into something that is actionable. Mm-hmm. And I think in this area of gender, for example, of getting youth more involved, and dealing with conflict at the local, recognizing informal institutions, for example, as well as formal. All of these things should go beyond, we should walk the talk. And I think the SDG agenda is compelling us to do that, and we need to be sharper when in our conclusions and more operational. And I think I saw that's something that is beginning to happen.
Excellent.
So I think that's
very good.
we think alike.